Part 60. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 594. The appearance of the ghost bus caused the Holy See to fall into an uproar. However, as the instigator, Shenjian had no intention of understanding this. He was driving a ghost bus, rushing through the Vatican's blockade and heading straight towards the pyramid. The restless sound of the car engine seemed to have experienced the baptism of tens of thousands of miles of cross-country marathon, and it was overwhelmed, and it was somewhat unable to withstand the current number of fierce ghosts. Soon, in Shenjian's sight, flying sand and rocks, yellow sand all over the sky, and a desolate scene in the desert came into view. Amidst the rolling yellow sand, a pyramid is looming. At once, Shenjian stood up. There was excitement in his eyes. From that pyramid, he sensed an unusually large supernatural aura covering the pyramid, isolating it. This is an application of ghost territory. The original queen of Yanjai used this method to cover the entire imperial capital of Yanjai kingdom, turning it into a palace in the sky. The same is true for the pyramid in front of me. Although no strange phenomena are shown, as long as someone steps into the pyramid, they will fall into the ghost wall, go around in circles, and return to the same place. Even the use of helicopters for aerial bombing was ineffective. Besides ghosts and gods, who else could have such a supernatural power? Think of this. The smile on Shenjian's face became even stronger. However, this move of his. The passengers in the car were uneasy. "Human, what are you doing? Don't stand up. We are out of the city now. The roads are wide. As long as you drive carefully, the ghost bus will stop sooner or later. Yeah, don't be impulsive. If you have any troubles, you can tell us. Don't make fun of our car's fate, If I had known that there would be such a disaster, why would I turn into a ghost in the first place? I also regret it. When the coffin was buried, I should have had it nailed shut." A group of ghosts cried and howled. After finally driving out of the city and into the desolate desert, they thought they could be saved. Unexpectedly, this stupid human not only stopped holding the steering wheel, but also stood up, as if letting the ghost bus do whatever it wanted. "What the hell are you? If you have something to worry about, we can help you resolve it. At such a young age, why should we drag a bunch of ghosts with us to die together? You are a typical revenge society." Looking at the pyramid getting closer and closer, the faces of all the ghost passengers turned green. Colliding into the pyramid at this speed, they didn't know if something happened to the pyramid, but they definitely did. The crashes are the lightest. If it's serious, they will be crushed into minced flesh and they won't be able to fight anymore. If you want to recover again, I'm afraid it's not a dream. Suddenly, they remembered what Shenjian said before setting off. The only thing they can do at the moment is to try not to cause trouble to the people calling for help, and to keep part of the body intact, so that it can be claimed. Woo 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 woo. The crying became even more pitiful. A group of ghost passengers began to break off a section of their own fingers and put them into their mouths. Even if they are dead, there is a finger that can test their identity. It would be better if they could be controlled by humans. In this case, their recovery time can be advanced. See this. Other passengers also started to imitate it. Some wrenched their fingers, some wrenched their toes, some swallowed their hair, and some swallowed their own 2 eyeballs. At this time, as if knowing that he was about to die, the ghosts were too lazy to pay attention to Nayun, a living person. Instead, he kindly advised, "You are just a fragile human being. It is impossible for you to leave bones behind such a violent impact under the pyramid. I can help you swallow something containing your personal testimony, so that you can become the minced flesh can at least let the rescuers know that 36 people died in this car, not 35. Na-Yun. The corners of his mouth twitched wildly. Thank you very much. Looking at the ghost passengers who had closed their eyes and were waiting for death, he opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Then he turned his attention to Shenjian. Breaking into a cold sweat. He knew about Shenjian's plan to drive the ghost bus into the pyramid, but he was not sure that it would be successful. If it fails, the consequences will be no less than being hit head-on by a high-speed train weighing dozens of tons. In that case, let alone claiming it, it's hard to say whether a complete organ can be left behind. Think of this. Na-Yun looked confused. But he still took out a certificate and held it in his mouth. 1 minute later. Hit. This thought appeared in everyone's mind. They subconsciously closed their eyes, waiting for death to come. To this, Shenjian's face was expressionless. He stood in the driver's seat and watched calmly as the ghost bus crashed into it. Then, submerged into the pyramid. See this. Shenjian's eyes lit up. It worked. The ghost bus broke through the mystery of the pyramid and opened up a new path. Suddenly, a bright light emerged inside the pyramid. This is definitely the most unlucky trip Chu Qian has ever experienced. Originally, I just planned to take my little sisters to visit the pyramid of Gallifrey during the summer vacation. Unexpectedly, he was involved in a supernatural incident. First, the way home was blocked, and then he met a ghost while taking a taxi. Later, he learned from the Freemasonry that the yellow race was having a hard time here and was in a crisis-ridden situation. At last, he was even selected by the thriller game and became a player. She thought her bad luck ended here. However, this is not the limit. Not long after entering the dungeon, she followed the method taught to her by the Freemasons and found a place to hide, but she was still discovered. She could only escape. At this time, 2 level 30 black players were chasing her. She had learned that these were 3-star players, and most of them were Ghost Masters. However, Ghost Masters rarely dared to use supernatural powers unless their lives were in danger because of the threat of the resurgence of ghosts in their bodies. This also gave her a chance to escape. But as time went by, her physical strength gradually began to fail. However, for a Ghost Master, this is obviously not the limit. The distance between them is getting closer. Keep running, little girl, you'd better not be caught by us, otherwise we will spread your legs and throw you into the group of ghosts. Ha ha ha, you're too shameless. You can't even let us have an appetizer first. I heard that these girls from the Dragon Kingdom are all so tender. I've rarely felt this since I became a Ghost Master. 2 black players laughed ferociously behind them. She followed Chu Qian leisurely, enjoying the thrill of chasing and eating her prey. Hear this. Chu Qian was desperate. She was just an ordinary person who hid after entering the dungeon. She had no power to resist against 2 level 30 Ghost Masters. At this time, Shenjian's appearance appeared in her mind. The reason why she hasn't collapsed yet is because of Shenjian's words, I will go too, and this belief is supporting her. But now, there is no hope. Thump. She fell. She struggled to stand up, only to find that 2 black players had already arrived beside her, less than 2 meters away from her. They all showed excited smiles. That moment, she was heartbroken. However, at this time, the roar of the engine suddenly sounded. This sudden change aroused the vigilance of the 2 black players. Chu Qian also looked over. I saw a yellow bus suddenly appearing in the desert submerged by yellow sand. The buses were in tatters, like scrap cars in a scrap yard. On both sides of the bus roof, the corpses of ghosts were hung on both sides of the bus windows by blood-stained hemp ropes, making everyone feel like they were dead and trembling all over. Where did this ghost bus come from? Thinking. The car door opens. One after another, the fierce ghosts ran down quickly. squatting on the ground, hugging each other and crying. Finally, I can finally escape this nightmare. I will never dare to take the bus again. Mommy, I survived. Damn it, I swallowed my hand. Someone help me take out my fingers. The sky has eyes, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be a ghost again. Humans are so scary. I never want to see humans again. All the ghost passengers shed tears for the rest of their lives. I'm glad I survived. Little did I know. This scene made Chu Chien and the two black players present confused. What's the situation? Take public transportation or go sightseeing in a group? No. Isn't this a copy? Why can outsiders come in? And this ghost bus is too scary. Not only did they hang more than 20 ghosts, but they also made more than 30 ghost passengers cry. This is a ghost. What kind of torture did you have to go through to show your true feelings like this? For those who didn't know, they thought they were being tricked into defrauding the organization. Think of this. The two black players felt nervous. Even Chu Chien, who was so close, couldn't take care of her and kept retreating. There are so many ghosts, plus a ghost driver who drives a bus with a human head and an unknown level of terror. I am afraid that if a 5-star player comes, he will have to retreat with curses. The two 3-star players have no ability to deal with this. Just right. Leaving a human behind as bait can also delay time. Then the two black players turned around sharply. About to slip away. A voice suddenly sounded, "You don't know how to shout when you see someone. Are people nowadays so rude?" The words fell. Shen Jian walked down. His eyes were staring straight ahead. A row of scarlet panels suddenly appeared. It has been detected that a player entered the instance through irregular means and has been identified as a stowaway. Warn. Warn. Serious warning. It has been detected that the player has destroyed the dungeon several times, which has caused bad behavior. Thriller game cannot tolerate it anymore and there is no need to tolerate it anymore. Player identity changed. Identity, player, wild red monster. Current effect, the bleeding bar lights up above the head. Note, any fierce ghost or player in the dungeon can attack the red monster player, and there will be generous rewards for killing them. Note, players with red named monsters cannot obtain tasks and receive rewards. Note, once the blood bar is empty, the player will die automatically. Wish players good luck. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 595. Chapter 591 Bright Blood Bar? Even God kills, kill assholes. Looking at the beating words on the scarlet panel, Shen Jian's eyes were strange. This little loser in the thriller game finally dared to do something different. It's just that your intolerance is too low. What's the difference between saying harsh words but not daring to fight offline? Thinking. A line of blood bars appeared out of thin air above Shen Jian's head. Player, King Yama. Identity, Wild Red Monster. Level, Level 58. Health bar, Infinity. Current status, everyone can attack. This line of scarlet font cannot be turned off and is forced to be displayed. Visible to anyone. Even the ghost passengers in the car can see it. This moment. Everyone was stunned. What's going on? Has the boss turned on his health bar? But your blood bar is too thick. How many dividing lines are there between these two lines of blood bars? How much blood is this humming thing going to take? 999,999? I'm crazy. This is not a wild elite monster. This is not a pure dungeon boss. What, now the big boss knows that he has come to Novice Village to block the spring water? Are you so up to date with the times? Shock, horror, panic, and other emotions appeared on the two black players. Their movements were stagnant and they never dared to take another half step back. Because they had an intuition that what this wild boss said was aimed at them. Then they turned their heads with difficulty. I saw the bright blood bar and the bright scarlet words again. At the same time, their respective panel attributes also began to remind them that they had encountered a wild red monster, and they could receive generous rewards for killing it. 2 black players. Under the bright sun, their faces looked darker. Farkey. Is it really not a joke to let 2 level 30 players kill a boss with a level as high as 58 and a bottomless health bar? No matter how you look at it, the boss must be killing them. This horror game must have felt that its players were too relaxed in the dungeon, so it created another big boss. Why do they feel that the driver of the ghost bus in front of them is more terrifying than the copy of the supernatural master in the pyramid? Think of this. The 2 of them became frightened, trembling all over. At this time, a surprised voice came. Brother? Is it really you? You are really here? Chu Qian, who had regained consciousness, immediately said in surprise. There was a bit of disbelief on her face, and a bit of excitement for the rest of her life. The moment she thought she was going to die, Shen Jian actually came. Although he didn't look like Prince Charming, he still came to her driving a ghost bus and hanging a dense curtain of ghosts. This moment, excitement is stronger than any emotion. Hear sounds. The 2 black players felt their hearts pounding, and had an unknown premonition in their hearts. Does this wild boss know that girl with tender skin and tender flesh? How can this be? How could the boss in front of me, who brought about Hyakuki Yaka upon his appearance, know a human? Could it be that this man is really also a player? Is the player's name above the opponent's head really the ID of the thriller game? Their pupils shrank. What a joke. Is this a player? You are a player and your health bar is thicker than the boss. Shilapo Sword God, right? Go is waiting for invincible here. See this. The 2 black players felt chills starting from their feet. He said lamely, misunderstanding, this is all a misunderstanding. We are joking with her. We will leave now without disturbing you to reminisce. Say it. They just planned to leave. Did I give in? After Shen Jian finished exploring the information on the scarlet panel, his eyes suddenly fell on the 2 black players. Your Excellency King Yama, what do you want to do? We are a member of the Holy See. If you are also a player, you should know the influence of the Holy See. This is not something that a level 58 ghost master like you can deal with. As for chasing this chick, we can make amends. One of the black players said sarcastically. Excluding the strange health bars that appeared on the opponent's body, they couldn't afford to offend just by showing level 58. To know. Nowadays, there are less than 5 players above level 60 in the Holy See. A level 58 Ghost Master is already at the top and is a quasi 5-star player. Noisy. Shen Jian said 2 words expressionlessly. He looked like he was too lazy to talk but listened. Then he stared at the ghost passengers who got off the bus with a faint look. At once, all the ghost passengers stood up and understood what Shen Jian meant. Staring at the 2 black players with cold eyes. His eyes were filled with pity. It's not good to offend anyone, but this living bastard. This bitch is the most handsome boy who has ever run rampant and crashed through a street. If you are targeted, you are in bad luck. Saw this scene. The 2 black players turned pale. The black-skinned face was extremely ferocious. They obviously didn't succeed and didn't do anything to this girl. They didn't understand why Shen Jian bit them and wouldn't let go. Would you rather offend the Holy See than stand up for a new player of a thriller game? This is an unwise choice. They roared, damn yellow-skinned monkey, even if you are a veteran player, as long as you dare to show the blood bar, we will still kill you. Said. 2 black players rushed towards Shen Jian. Emma, do you too underestimate us? How many dishes are there? If you drink like this, do you think we are dead? Haha, even if one hand is missing and I'm motion sick, I'll still have no problem torturing you too. Seeing these two black players rushing towards Shen Jian without any regard for their existence, the ghost passengers couldn't bear it anymore. Damn it, we were already wronged on the ghost bus, and now you two black men are ignoring us. Are you not taking them seriously? Can this be tolerated? Think of this. More than 30 ghost passengers showed their fangs and completely engulfed the two black players. Till the end. They couldn't get within 5 meters of Shen Jian, let alone touch him. The moment he was overwhelmed by the group of ghosts. They understood a truth: if they want to kill the boss with a bright blood bar, they must first deal with the miscellaneous soldiers around him. Moment. A group of ghost passengers completed their mission. Walked back in a polite manner. It's not that they don't want to escape, but the oppression brought by Shen Jian is too great. Just being stared at made them feel palpitations deep in their souls, as if something bad would happen if they disobeyed each other. See it? Shen Jian showed a satisfied smile. The two black players were just an interlude and did not affect his next actions. Subsequently, Shen Jian's eyes fell on Chu Qian. What's going on with this copy? At this time, Chu Qian still looked horrified. She expected that Shen Jian's game level might be very high, but she didn't expect that it would be as high as level 58. This could be considered a first-tier player in a horror game. Besides, Shen Jian is driving a ghost bus and driving a fierce ghost. This seems to be very different from the fighting method of a ghost controller. She didn't stay in vain yesterday. Through my fellow Freemasons, I have learned about the truth behind the reality of horror games, ghost masters, the Holy See, Daxia Lonke, etc. She knew that these ghosts driven by Shen Jian had a very high level of terror, which was obviously not something that a level 58 player could do. Think of this. Chu Qian became more determined in her idea of hugging her thigh. Of course, if you can hold other things, if this person is Shen Jian, that's not impossible. In such a world where evil ghosts are resurrected, Shen Jian is definitely the dream of 900 million girls. She sorted out the situation and said immediately, this copy is called, The Trial of the Pharaoh. According to the prompts on the game panel, there are 3 levels in this trial. If you reach the 3rd level, you may appear in front of the Pharaoh. If you have the chance to be selected, you can become the Pharaoh's dependent. Shen Jian was thoughtful. This was consistent with the information he had learned. Probably because he was not selected and did not trigger the effects of the titles Dungeon Collapser and Ghost Seeing Sorrow. This did not cause the copy to mutate. From this point of view, the copy of the pyramid can be quickly taken over. Shen Jian fell into deep thought. As time goes by, the situation in Yangshi is getting worse and worse. Fortunately, Dongfang has the underworld, which can at least suppress the invasion of horror games. But the Western world is different. The Holy See is actively accepting horror games and accepting copies of these games. Even sending more people into the real copy, choosing to become the followers of ghosts and gods, and obtain stronger supernatural powers. This fits right into the idea of a thriller game. Invade the Western world and get twice the result with half the effort. If he wants to take over the Western world before the horror game turns the West into a ghost town, he must transform more evil, expand step by step, take over the province, take over the country, and then take over the whole world. It requires a lot of effort. Although a pyramid of ghosts is not enough, it can still solve the urgent need. Thinking. Shen Jian glanced at the ghosts on the ghost bus. He has already collected 35 of the 50 ghosts needed to unlock the Hell Realm, and he should be able to collect the rest in the pyramid. Think of this. Shen Jian turned around and returned to the car. Boarding. The words fell. The ghost passengers were full of rejection in their hearts, but they still had some forced smiles on their faces. They all got in the car. Chu Qian also walked up. On the left, I saw Na Yun lying in front of the window with a gloomy face and a weak look. "What's wrong with you? Motion sickness?" Chu Qian was a little strange. In this day and age, are there still people who get dizzy while riding a bus? "Heh, I advise you, it's better to hold on to the pole now." "Chu Qian?" She froze. Out of the corner of his eye, all the ghost passengers in the carriage were nervously grabbing onto anything they could grab around, looking extremely scared. "Chu Qian. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 596. Vomit. For a long time, the ghost bus stopped. A beautiful figure rushed out very quickly. He was coughing dryly on the ground. It was Chu Qian. She slumped to the ground with a dazed look on her face, and her face showed the same expression as the ghost passenger who had survived the disaster. It was a palpitation of "I will never dare to drive fast again in this life. Look, I told you to be mentally prepared." Na Yun didn't care about the ridicule and said feebly. "Conversation room. Shen Jian has already walked down." He stared at the pyramid not far away. His eyes moved slightly. "This place is located within the dungeon, and the tone you see is that of a ghost realm. Otherwise, at the speed of the ghost bus, it would have already run out of the pyramid. In other words, the pyramid in front of him was not the one he saw at Gallifrey. And it is still in a state of unfinished construction." "Is this the first level of the dungeon?" Shen Jian asked. "Yes, according to the white and black players in the chat interface, this Pharaoh's trial is divided into 3 levels. The first level is the Sphinx." Chu Qian adjusted her thoughts and explained. "According to what I know, this first level seems to be that the legendary Sphinx will awaken only if you walk into the pyramid. There are 2 ways to pass this level. 1. Move bricks, build the pyramid, and move at least 100 boulders, and you can pass through this place smoothly. But I have learned that the brick here is not like a real red brick, but a half-meter high boulder. And I heard that supernatural props cannot act on the boulder, and the Ghost Master's supernatural powers cannot shake the boulder. Can only be carried with bare hands. In other words, players who choose this option will basically not be able to participate in subsequent trials. They can only move the 100 pieces through labor until the copy is over. Second, answer him a question. This answer seems to involve the deepest sins hidden in the player's heart. Every player who answers the question has a very difficult choice. Hear this." Na Yun's face showed a bit of gloom. After hesitating for a moment, he also said, "When I entered the dungeon for the second time, I secretly tried this level." Shen Jian raised his eyebrows and said, "Tell me." "At the beginning, I thought wildly that if I could successfully clear the dungeon and become a dependent of the Pharaoh, I might be able to use this level of identity to leave this place." Na Yun recounted. "So, I chose to answer the Sphinx's question while there was no one at the first level, and he asked me if I was willing to give up everything and stay in Gallifrey." As soon as these words came out, Chu Qian was dumbfounded. This question is so vicious. Na Yun originally planned to clear the dungeon just to leave Gallifrey, but the Sphinx gave him a blow and asked him if he was willing to stay here. This question is comparable to your mother and your wife jumped into the water at the same time, who should you save? "What did you say?" Chu Qian asked curiously. Na Yun smiled bitterly. "I originally wanted to lie, but at that moment, I realized that as long as I said yes, my mind would completely change and I would unswervingly choose to stay here. I guess that this should be the Sphinx's supernatural power, which can spy on what I need to do most urgently. As long as I dare to say it, the supernatural power will control my thinking, forcefully modify my cognition, and let me do what you say. In the end, I had no choice but to give up and chose to move bricks. Hear this. Chu Qian frowned. If the Sphinx asked her this question, how should she choose? The answer is, no solution. Unless she really wants to give up everything in the Dragon Kingdom and stay here, in this town where yellow people are hunted, and live in fear all day long. If so, she might as well die. Certainly. This is the most unavoidable question in Na Yun's heart, but it is not necessarily hers. But, from the case of Na Yun alone, it is enough to see that those who can answer through the Sphinx must be a group of beings with terrible minds. She even doubted that if the question involved killing her own relatives, someone would answer yes. Is this the supernatural world? Chu Qian's eyes were solemn, and for the first time she felt how cruel the world hidden under peace was. Think of this. She couldn't help but look at Shen Jian. The other side. After listening to Na Yun's story, Shen Jian looked as usual. He said casually, "This is actually very simple." Say it. Shen Jian took long strides, walking in the direction of the Sphinx. Na Yun? Chu Qian? Both of them were startled. Simple. Damn it. Is the person in charge of the city so popular? There was deep suspicion on both of their faces. Although Shen Jian is an old player of horror games, with a level as high as 58, and the level of horror is comparable to that of a real ghost king, how can the Sphinx be a vegetarian? The opponent's level of terror is definitely greater and stronger than the ghost king. Under such a huge gap, if you want to pass this level, you must face your heart honestly, and then make the opposite choice, so that you can pass the level. For example, if a ghost master comes in and seeks a way to continue the ghost's recovery, the Sphinx will ask him a question asking him to give up the decision. At this time, whether he answers giving up or not giving up, it is not a good idea for him. Choose. However, seeing Shen Jian's reassuring and calm expression, they felt a little sad in their hearts. What if Shen Jian really found a loophole and passed the level? Combined with Shen Jian's efforts to force his way into the dungeon, they suddenly felt that there was hope. Then, they followed suit. I want to know how Shen Jian will answer. At the same time, as Shen Jian stepped into the scope of the pyramid, yellow sand began to sweep in, and terrifying supernatural fluctuations spread here. A sphinx-like ghost suddenly emerged from the ground. Then, opened his eyes. The Sphinx's pupils had already dilated, and there was no longer any distinction between the whites and blacks of the eyes, but a strange dead gray. The moment he opened his eyes, an unknown supernatural force enveloped him. Na Yun and Chu Qian's expressions changed. I just feel that there is some unknown existence that has glimpsed the biggest secret in their hearts. There is no doubt that this is the Sphinx's supernatural power. The next second, this supernatural power fell on Shen Jian. A hoarse and eerie voice sounded, "Are you willing to give up attacking the pyramid?" Huh? Attack the pyramid? In the first half of the story, the Sphinx's tone was normal, but later on, he seemed to react and his voice suddenly rose several degrees. Sphinx? He was stunned. Damn it, your biggest obsession right now is to attack the pyramid? You really want to attack Pharaoh's residence? Grass. Even if you have 8 damn balls, you wouldn't dare to think about such a thing. The Sphinx fell into a daze. It seems unbelievable. He observed Shen Jian's situation again. It turned out that he was not mistaken. It's this human being who really thinks so. He really wanted to have the Pharaoh's palace as his own. Think of this. The Sphinx looked at Shen Jian as if he had seen a ghost. You really want to attack the pyramid? Is it not okay? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Sphinx. He couldn't say it. He can only repeat his rules. Are you willing to give up attacking the pyramids? Of course not. Then you have been eliminated. According to the rules set by the pharaoh, the person who receives the question must give up his current biggest obsession in order to move forward. If you are unwilling to give up, you are naturally unqualified. The Sphinx announced the results. Subsequently, his eyes fell on Niyun and Chu Jian. Niyun. Chu Jian. The two of them blinked and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Finished. Is this the humming end? No. Didn't you say this level is very easy? By simplicity, do you mean being eliminated? Damn it. If that's the case, we can go up too. Isn't it just being eliminated? We can't pass the level. Isn't it easy to be eliminated? They are confused. I don't understand what Shen Jian is doing. At this time, the Sphinx spoke, "Human, you have been eliminated. Go to the pyramid and move stones. Just move it to the end of the dungeon. This is a gift from the pharaoh to you humans. You should be grateful." For a long time, Shen Jian was indifferent. The Sphinx showed a ferocious smile. "Human, don't you understand? Go move the bricks, otherwise even the rules set by pharaoh will not be able to save you. I haven't eaten flesh and blood for a while, and your meat should be pretty good. Hear this." Shen Jian also grinned. "You just said, what am I here to do?" The Sphinx subconsciously said, "Attack the pyramid." Then what's my answer? I don't want to. In that case, why should I leave? I'm here to beat you, kid. Do you want to see again, what is my biggest obsession now? A strange smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. The Sphinx trembled inwardly. The supernatural power is activated again. Just for a moment, he felt the overwhelming malice. This malice was directed at him, at the pyramids, and even more at Pharaoh. This moment, the Sphinx was frightened and angry. He understood. The original purpose of this human being is to attack here, and it is impossible to ask him whether he is willing to give up nature. In this case, how could the other party abide by the rules here? The so-called elimination is of no use to this human being. Because the other party's intention from the beginning was to capture them all. Figure this out. The Sphinx showed a cruel expression on his face. He roared angrily, "Slaves, all come out, someone is disrespectful to Pharaoh." The words fell. At the pyramid that was being built, a fierce ghost figure wearing only a turban and white slave uniforms emerged from the ground, and their number was increasing. A pair of twisted grimaces, as if they want to eat the human beings in front of them clean before they can stop. Depressing, cold, scary, and strange. It has become the main theme here. It has also become a cage for trapped animals. Surrounded the prey. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 597. Instantly, one after another, fierce ghost figures emerged from the sand. The twisted limbs, the terrifying eyes full of hatred, and the cold look that seems to be choosing people to devour. These slave ghosts responsible for building the pyramid appeared one by one under the roar of the Sphinx, and wanted to give this man a small punishment for disrespecting the pharaoh. That moment, a pair of cold eyes stared straight at him. If it becomes a purgatory on earth, there are ghosts everywhere. Niyun and Chu Jian were so nervous that they could no longer breathe, and their hearts were completely overwhelmed by fear. "I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Boss, if you want to talk, wait until no one is around. If you brag to us that you want to attack the pyramids, we will definitely believe you. But if you say this in front of other people's pharaoh's subordinates, isn't it very uncomfortable? If others don't beat you up, I think you're a coward. Think of this." The two of them wanted to cry but had no tears. The two new players, facing such a huge wave of ghosts, didn't even have the strength to resist. I'm afraid it wouldn't take a ghost spit to drown them. At this time, the Sphinx also said sadly, it is also a sin to verbally insult Lord Pharaoh. Lord Pharaoh does not care what you humans think, but this is not a reason for you humans to insult you arbitrarily. I will not eat you as a sacrifice to Lord Pharaoh, blame it. While talking, he looked at the blood bar on Shen Jian's head. A sneer flashed inside. A human who dares to show his health bar, does this mean he doesn't die quickly enough? Although he vaguely felt that the thickness of the health bar was a bit wrong, as the famous saying goes, if you dare to show the health bar, God will kill you. There are a total of 5,000 slave ghosts building the pyramid, and their terror levels are all above the red level. They only need to activate the supernatural power once, and the human's health bar will probably be emptied. He didn't need to say anything more. The crowd of slave ghosts gathered around had already made a permeating ghost sound. They were slaves, but they were also Pharaoh's subjects. Here, the Pharaoh is the supreme ruler of the human order and the king favored by all slaves. Anyone who dares to insult the Pharaoh is their enemy. Brothers, give him a hard blow. I move bricks every day, and my bones are almost falling apart. I finally have a chance to play. Human beings, beings that are even more humble than us slaves, still dare to talk nonsense here. They really don't know how high the sky is. The ghosts were joking. Terrifying supernatural fluctuations burst out one after another. It shrouded this area, turning it into a desperate place where countless supernatural beings were raging. Anyone who steps into this place will instantly be attacked by thousands of red-clad ghosts. Even if it is a ghost-level creature, it is impossible for it to remain unscathed if it is set on fire without any resistance. At least a third of the blood must be lost. As for a human being, it is normal for the health bar to be cleared. They were ready to watch Shen Jian's blood bar clear in an instant. Moment. A scream sounded. All the ghosts looked at it. It was a big living person standing 100 meters away who was making the sound. The opponent's head also showed a health bar. Player, Na Yun. Level 3. Identity, Wild Red Monster. Health bar, 99. The panic sound just now was made by the other party. Although he had escaped 100 meters away, the supernatural attack launched by thousands of red-clad ghosts still spread farther away. I saw that the blood bar above Na Yun's head was suddenly cleared, leaving only 1 point of blood. A lot of white body hair has grown all over the body. Under the supernatural protection of the fierce ghost, he barely had any remaining blood. Then, Na Yun fled back to the ghost bus. Chu Qian gritted her teeth and said, "Are you okay?" Because she ran back to the ghost bus first, the supernatural power did not affect him, but Na Yun, who was one position behind her, was ruthlessly affected, and his full health was almost emptied. Horrible. This is too terrible. When the situation was critical, they had immediately chosen to run back to the ghost bus. Unexpectedly, it was almost affected. Na Yun, who had already stepped into the ghost bus, just took one step slower, less than a second, and was almost killed instantly. The horror of a supernatural attack can be imagined. That's literally no reaction time. Once attacked, even a ghost master will die in an instant. Even if the terror level of this ghost bus itself were not high enough, even if they escaped back here, they would probably die. Do you think I'm okay? It's over. After this time, I'm afraid I'm going to wake up as a ghost. A large amount of white body hair appeared on the back of Na Yun's hands, on his skin, and even on his face. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Obviously, according to the time, even if Li Gui wakes up, it should be 3 months later, but he didn't expect that this trip would clear up his remaining time. If it weren't for Li Gui Jigsaw's supernatural powers just now, he would have died long ago. Just being affected for less than a second, he lost at least 1,000 drops of blood. The reason why it can still be maintained at 1 point of blood is simply because the ghost puzzle is at work. But the result was that he was about to recover. And Shen Jian, who has endured the supernatural attacks from thousands of ghosts, is he still alive? Think of this. Na Yun's heart was filled with despair. He didn't understand why Shen Jian didn't run with them, but chose to stay where he was. Even if the other party thinks they can protect themselves, it is still a supernatural attack caused by the cooperation of thousands of ghosts. Not to mention you showed off your health bar. Once your blood is deducted, doesn't the attacking spirit know how many attacks it will take to kill you? In the game, the blood bar is displayed and the blood is deducted, which is enough for the player to continue to attack without fear of death. Because they see the progress bar. It's over. Na Yun murmured again. Once Shen Jian dies, they are all finished. Then, from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of Chu Qian's stunned face. Doubts arose within him. He also stood up and leaned on the car window to look. Shen Jian was still standing there, unscathed. Na Yun? He was stunned. Nanny. What's the situation? Being in the center of the attack by the evil spirits, Shen Jian not only survived, he didn't even lose a drop of blood. Yes. He could see clearly that there really wasn't a drop of blood. Grass. It's outrageous. Couldn't the supernatural attack launched by thousands of ghosts even break through the defense? Is this horse a human? You tell me, he is human like us? Ridiculous. Na Yun's eyes widened, almost popping out of his head. He was only affected for less than a second and was directly drained of thousands of drops of blood. It was because he was a ghost master that he barely managed to save his life. But Shen Jian stood in the center of the attack and withstood all the attacks from the ghosts head-on, without losing even a drop of blood. Is this the difference between game soldiers and world-class bosses? He was emo. At the same time, the ghosts and the Sphinx were also horrified on the spot. No blood deduction? I'm crazy. Are you so awesome? Even ghosts and gods dare not say that they can bear it without losing a drop of blood. What the hell is going on with you? False, all this is a cover-up. He must have been injured, but he just covered up the injury. The Sphinx pretended to be calm. He is the top ghost king, but he cannot be like Shen Jian. He couldn't do it, so how could a human being do it? It must be fake. See this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows with a look of disgust. Think about it. He raised his hand and made a small cut. 1. A line of scarlet words deducting blood appeared. Na Yun, Chu Qian. A group of slave ghosts. Sphinx. All of a sudden, the whole place fell into dead silence. Then there was an uproar. Day. It wasn't that Shen Jian was using a cover-up trick, but that their supernatural attacks really couldn't break through the defense. This is too irritating. The supernatural attack they jointly launched was worse than a small wound on Shen Jian's hand. Such a strong contrast would be difficult for a group of slaves to deal with. This is equivalent to telling them clearly, you are really rubbish. Think of this. The group of ghosts broke through the defense. Start doubting life. Haha, I gave you a chance, but if you don't succeed, you might as well die. Shen Jian said with a smile. His eyes fell on the Sphinx. Immediately afterwards, he held out his finger. Bright golden light spots condensed in his hands. A dazzling golden diamond-shaped light was formed. Have you ever been hit by a light? The words fell. A golden laser shot out from his finger. Boom. Suddenly a large pit of quicksand appeared in the desert. Many slave ghosts died on the spot. Ghosts? No. You ride on your horse and look at the Sphinx, but attack us instead. Can this damn thing still be beaten? See this. The slave ghosts were so frightened that they fled frantically, ignoring even the Sphinx's orders. "GGG, I suggest you stand still and wait for the desert god of death's choice. No matter the outcome is good or bad, this is fate, isn't it? Let us believe in Pharaoh." Shen Jian fired the laser beam while serving as a gold medal teacher. The thoughts of this group of ghosts are too deep-rooted, and they believe in the Pharaoh in their hearts. Even if they use the priestly ability of the rogue king to maintain the good and evil of these ghosts at 50% of each other, they will still have a choice of stance. As for the underworld, no other position is needed. Before the supernatural incident in Longwen Mountain, he really couldn't let these ghosts with other beliefs become sinister, but now, he has the ability to ferry ghosts and gods. The supernatural power of ferrying ghosts and gods can reshape a brand new individual from the corpse of a dead ghost. These individuals are only loyal to their supernatural master. He is the perfect candidate for the underworld. And this supernatural power has been imprinted by him with the priesthood of Wheel-Turning King. In other words, these slave ghosts are all going to die. After his death, he could safely reshape Yin Cha's candidate. However, this idea is undoubtedly a bolt from the blue to the slave ghosts. Listening to Shen Jian's voice that sounded like he was gloating about his misfortune, the ghosts were furious. The back molars are almost broken. God really believed in Pharaoh. You bastard human being, have you always been so shameless when riding a horse, or is it just today? Gan. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 598. Boom 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 boom. On the desert, in front of the half-built pyramid. Destructive golden light penetrated the battlefield, exploded, and intertwined into a wave of destruction covering hundreds of meters. Under the aftermath of the shock, the ground hundreds of meters away was trembling crazily and collapsing, forming large pits of quicksand one after another. It was difficult to imagine what kind of existence could be capable of such a continuous explosion of divine power. Far away, the ghost driver drove the ghost bus away from the land amidst the earth-shattering roar, away from the aftermath of the explosion. At this time, the ghost passengers sitting in the carriage knelt down one after another. Don't ask them why they kneel. Even if their parents come, they will only dare to kneel and watch at this moment. What kind of picture is this? The sky trembled, the earth roared, sand and dust rolled up, and the golden light shone brightly. Under such a mighty force that looked like a true god coming to destroy the world, the so-called human sea tactic completely lost its effect and became a stepping stone for miracles. All the ghost passengers were thankful that they had not taken advantage of the opportunity when Shen Jian was not paying attention to them and abandoned the car, otherwise they would be the ones experiencing this great power now. Etc. It seems like, they can't let Shen Jian use such power? For a while. They don't know whether to be sad or happy. Unlike the ghost passengers, the only two living people on the carriage were completely in a daze at this moment. Is this a ghost master? Is this horse riding a ghost a master? What a joke. If a ghost master has such strength, do we still need to care about horror games and the resurrection of evil ghosts? I'm afraid it wouldn't have been destroyed on the first day of the invasion. You came here with Brother Shen. Do you know where he is from? Na Yun murmured. Chu Qian was lost for a while. I only know that he seems to be from Qingxi. Qingxi, are you the person in charge of Qingxi? Na Yun wrote down the name. He has been in Gallifrey for more than a year. He has no internet access, is isolated from the world, and has no understanding of the domestic situation. Qingxi does not seem to be a first-tier city, and he has never heard of it. But that's okay. With Shen Jian's strength, he saw hope of returning to the Dragon Kingdom. When the dungeon ends, they can rely on Shen Jian's strong strength to quietly hijack a passenger plane at the airport in Gallifrey and fly back to the Dragon Kingdom. Think of this. Na Yun's heartbeat quickened. His eyes were full of excitement. The other side. On the battlefield filled with yellow sand. Shen Jian is still immersed in the position of spiritual mentor. While firing lasers at crowded places, he said with a smile, "What? Don't you believe in the Pharaoh? Then do you want to change your faith in Jesus? Or you can believe in the Jade Emperor. You have to find a belief for yourself." A group of slave ghosts. Hearing Shen Jian's teasing, they were furious, so angry that their faces turned red. "Damn it! We are weak. But you, this bitch, are so inhuman. Kill people, why bother adding salt to our wounds? You know how to kill people and kill people." To this, Shen Jian ignored them all. He grinned and released the supernatural powers belonging to angels, ghosts, and gods. He discovered that as he used more and more supernatural powers, his own personality as the king of hell was also quietly using this supernatural power for his own use. This was the case with the previous thunder method. In the past, he had to use the Song Emperor's yin-yang communicative power before he could use thunder to kill ghosts. But after using it too many times, he gradually mastered the thunder method. Now even without Emperor Song's clerical ability, he can still use thunder methods, which are even more powerful than those used by his master. The same applies to the supernatural powers of angels, ghosts, and gods. He can already imagine that when he masters more and more supernatural powers, the upper limit of Yama will become higher and higher, instead of being limited to the traditional 10 halls of Yama. Think of this. Shen Jian was also in a great mood. The power could not help but leak out more. This is undoubtedly a bigger blow to the fleeing slave ghosts. And in such chaos, the Sphinx had already buried himself in the sand. Holding his head, shivering. This is too humming scary. He is a top ghost king guarding the gate, how can he use such a large formation? Stop it, brother, we already know we're afraid. Think about it this way. A large crater was created in the sand around the Sphinx, revealing his larger body. He raised his head, a grimace that was close to a human face showing a hint of sneer. He looked at Shen Jian with a look of tears. Then, a little white flag was raised. Indicates surrender. Brother, I'm just Pharaoh's pet. I'm harmless to humans and animals. Shouted the Sphinx. Shen Jian. He raised an eyebrow. Think about it. But he didn't take any further action against the grasshopper. Instead, he continued to bombard other slave ghosts. See this scene. The remaining slave ghosts couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing the Sphinx surrendering and raising the white flag, they all felt like cursing. Damn it, you were the one who called us out, you were the one who said this human being insulted the Pharaoh, and now you are the first one to surrender. You really deserve to die. You used us as cannon fodder, but you picked it out yourself. You bitch, are you worthy of the Pharaoh's love and respect? At this time, a slave ghost who knew he had no way out stood up and resisted. It was not Shen Jian who resisted, but the Sphinx. If they were killed by Shen Jian, they would be a disaster at best, but if they were left alive by the Sphinx, they would be mentally unbalanced. Damn it, even the little white flag can be prepared in advance. You have already been prepared to be a wallflower, right? The most important thing is that you didn't prepare for us, nor did you intercede for us. You are a traitor and a traitor. They are not convinced. At these glances, the Sphinx curled his lips. He was literally Pharaoh's pet. With this level of identity, he can reach the top ghost king today. Ghost, your moral bottom line needs to be flexible. I know how to flatter the Pharaoh, but you don't. This is the gap between us. The Sphinx raised his head and said proudly. He can confidently say that the reason why he became the guardian of the first level of the Pharaoh's trial was because of his smooth movements. How could these slaves compare to him? Do they know what it means to observe words and emotions? Do they know how to develop flattering words that are not repeated every day, 365 days a year? Do they stay up late at night reading, specifically excerpting beautiful words and sentences? No. They don't understand at all. This is the difference between them. A group of slave ghosts. They had a dark look on their faces. MMP, you MMP. You are awesome. You have a low moral bottom line, look what you can do. When did flattering someone become something worth showing off? It's bad luck for us to have a gatekeeper like you here. In such mourning, all the slave ghosts on the field were killed. It crashed on the spot. See this. The Sphinx became even more panicked. Prone on the ground, whining. He also performed acrobatics. Put your belly up and your limbs upright on the dog. This is an action to please the owner. Shenjian. He couldn't help but hold his forehead. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. What kind of weird thing did this Cleopatra raise? Okay, it's annoying. Shenjian spoke, stopping the other party from making any further moves to please him. His eyes flickered and he said, "Aren't you afraid that Pharaoh will be angry and kill you quickly?" The Sphinx said weakly, "Brother, the master said that this is not our home, and it will not be a pity if we die no matter how much we die. She wants us to protect ourselves first when encountering special situations. As for these slaves, they are the natives of this world's pyramid ghost, it has nothing to do with us." Hear this. The surprise in Shenjian's eyes deepened. Cleopatra was both a ghost and a god, and was also revered as a pharaoh. The vastness of her supernatural place cannot be measured by a pyramid. In the deep ghost realm, there must be a larger force than here. Only. He was a little surprised that Cleopatra didn't come with her own power. To know. When the original fairy ghosts and gods came, they brought all the power they could bring with them and assimilated Longwen Mountain into a mass grave full of graves. And this Cleopatra, could it be possible that she chose to come alone? Think of this. Shenjian was thoughtful. Based on the information he knew, this possibility was very high. After all, according to the information he knew, Cleopatra was the type who was forced to come by a horror game and did not value the real world. Under such circumstances, it's easy to imagine her affinity for horror games after coming to the real world. If you don't bring your own power, you just don't want to achieve the purpose of a thriller game. Thoughts are spinning. Shenjian's eyes fell on the Sphinx again. The other party immediately started laughing. He looked like he was waiting for his master's order. Think about it. Shenjian asked, besides here, how much power does the pyramid have? There aren't many left. Most of the slaves are working on large-scale projects here. A small number are with the high priest, and some maids are with the master. The rest are gone. A dozen of them will not exceed 5,000. The Sphinx said honestly. Hear this. The smile in Shenjian's eyes deepened. 5,000, almost catching up with the current number of Yinshao in the underworld. If all these slaves could be converted into Yinke, the territory of the underworld could be expanded by at least 2/3, extending its jurisdiction to 3 provinces. In that case, it can be said to have achieved rocket-like growth. Stable. He became more and more satisfied with the idea of carrying the pyramid back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 599. After understanding Cleopatra's position and attitude, Shenjian made a plan in his heart. He left the passengers behind to clean up the dead slave ghosts for him, and then went directly to the next location. According to Chu Jian, this dungeon called Pharaoh Trial has a total of 3 levels. Every time you pass a level, you can go to the next location and continue the trial until you pass the 3 levels and stand in front of the pharaoh. That is, in front of Cleopatra. To this, Shen Jian is not very interested. He entered the dungeon in an irregular way and was defined as a stowaway by the thriller game. His game ID was marked red and his blood bar was displayed, making him a wild boss in the dungeon. For every player who enters the dungeon, as long as he sees him, a task prompt will automatically appear, reminding the player that if he kills him, he will receive generous rewards. Therefore, in this copy, he does not have to follow the player's route, but does whatever he wants. Do whatever you want. Even if the crescent moon opposes the sky, the game has nothing to do with it. But he was very interested in the slave ghosts that existed in the copy. According to the Sphinx, the slave ghosts in the pyramid copy in front of you are all from the pyramid corpses in the real world. They are a type of existence that were transformed into ghosts by Cleopatra. The dungeon master doesn't feel sorry for these slave ghosts. The underworld, however, lacks this kind of ready-made resources. Think of this. Shen Jian had a smile on his face. The mood is stirring. At this time, Chu Qian said, "Brother Shen, I just checked the chat interface and found that most of the players are currently waiting in the second level. There have been a lot of casualties. Moreover, these white and black players have publicly revealed put a bounty on our Dragon Nation people in the chat interface." Speaking of this, her face was filled with gloom. Anyone who sees outsiders of different skin colors oppressing and harming their compatriots will not feel better. In the past, they were tolerant because they had no strength and could only live like rats crossing the street. But now it's different. Shen Jian's strength refreshed their understanding. Even if the more than 90 foreign players who entered the dungeon were united, their lineup would not be able to compete with the threat of thousands of slave ghosts. And what is the outcome of the latter? Completely annihilated. Only one wallflower remains. With Shen Jian leading them, they feel safe. Na Yun said bitterly, "This is normal. The first 2 times I participated in the dungeon, I was treated like this. Even the reason why the Freemasonry has become what it is now is also related to these Holy See ghost controllers and non-staff game players. Because the town has been sealed off and all sources of information are blocked, in the eyes of the other party, we people from the Dragon Kingdom are just a bunch of unscrupulous rats who can be easily crushed to death. Because of this, Gallifrey and even the Holy See did not spend a lot of time looking for us. They seemed to be willing to watch themselves struggle and perform all kinds of ugly things. Do you know what those people think of us? Yellow-skinned mice in the hunting grounds. Hear this." Chu Qian clenched her fists. "Too much bullying." Shen Jian looked as usual. It's just that the look in his eyes is a little deeper. Immediately afterwards, Chu Qian continued to introduce, "I summarized the opinions of these players. The second level of this trial is actually related to the first level. The gatekeeper is a mummy covered with bandages. The opponent's supernatural power seems to be able to based on the choice the player gave up in the previous level. A similar scene is formed in the player's mind, and what the player needs to do is to strengthen his belief. If the mind is not firm and there is deviation, countless bandaged hands will come out of the player's head and kill him." Na Yun's face changed slightly. This level is said to be about strengthening one's beliefs, but it is better to directly explain it as a broad killing one's wife to prove the truth. Giving up on a choice and making a choice nakedly in reality are 2 different things. The former can only mean that you are ruthless enough and have the potential to do whatever it takes. But after all, it has never happened. You can firmly make the choice of killing your wife to prove enlightenment in your heart, but your family may not have an accident. In other words, you may never make this choice in your life. However, the gatekeepers at the second level turned it into reality. In particular, even a 5-star player would not be able to tell the difference between the supernatural powers performed by a top ghost king. For paranormal players, That's reality. To not waver in faith is to lose humanity. If your belief is shaken, the law of death will be triggered. Like the first level, this is also a dilemma. And it's a life or death decision. Is this second level selecting the most ferocious existence among ghost masters? Does this pharaoh want to form a team of evil players? Na Yun couldn't help but murmured. Chu Qian also frowned. I have a new understanding of the cruelty of the world of ghost masters. Ahem, although you are my eldest brother's friends, I still have to defend myself. All this is only related to the character of you humans. The purpose of the master setting this level is just to screen out people with strong will, but you humans, the evil thoughts generated were too complex, and at a certain moment they were deeply rooted in my heart, and this is why such a scene occurred. The Sphinx, who had been silent all this time, raised his hand and said weakly. Shen Jian glanced at him. Asked, this mummy in the second level is the high priest you call him? There are many slave ghosts over there. The Sphinx nodded and bowed, it's him, it's him. He is also a native ghost in this world. It is said that he is the original owner of this pyramid. He is honored as the second generation. After the master turned him into a fierce ghost, he appointed him as the high priest. It was he who proposed the plan to build a pyramid in the ghost realm. He thought that this would win the master's trust. Little did he know that the master had no interest at all. Speaking of which, the Sphinx showed a look of disdain. He often flatters his master, but unfortunately, he is not as skilled in flattery as I am. Haha. An old guy who is so ugly that he is a mummy still wants to flatter his master. If he surpasses me, he won't look in the mirror. Na Yun. Chu Qian. Is this something special and worthy of showing off? What? You can still go to heaven like this? The two people's faces twitched. Ignoring the Sphinx's excessive persistence in this regard, he looked at Shen Jian. Shen Jian was also unambiguous. Stride away. According to what the Sphinx said, the location where the high priest was located contained another third of the slave ghosts needed by the underworld. Soon, on a huge bonfire altar, there were more than 40 players standing scattered below. The complexion is very concentrated, only divided into white skin and black skin. It can be said that the players gathered here, whether they are white or black, are all members of the Holy See. No matter how bad they are also non-staff game players and have the opportunity to be promoted to non-staff members. When it comes to xenophobia, the West has gone to the extreme. How many times is this already? Someone asked, with obvious uneasiness in his tone. It's the 18th. As soon as these words came out, all the players in the audience were silent. Because this 18th does not refer to the 18th one who accepted the trial, but the number of players who died in this level. In the first level, because there was a detailed guide to clearing the dungeon, only 6 or 7 of the more than 90 players failed to pass. However, when it came to the second level, except for a few well-known senior players of the Holy See, most of them died in this level. So far, 18 have died. According to the dungeon guide they knew, this level shouldn't be so difficult. They suspected that the high priest was deliberately interfering with the players and causing them to fail. But they have no evidence and dare not ask questions. But the atmosphere at the scene was a little more dull. At this time, what the hell? A white player seemed to have discovered something and exclaimed. All the players looked at it. The pupils also shrank suddenly. I saw 3 players coming towards the second level. Based on his skin color, he can basically be judged to be from the Dragon Kingdom. But that's not the point. The point is, among the 2 men and 1 woman, there are 2 male players, staring at the bright logo above their heads. Discover a wild red monster. Hidden mission has been activated. Hidden mission, kill the red monster. Content, Two players who sneaked into the dungeon caused permanent damage to the dungeon and disrupted the order of the game. They have now forced the opponent to show their blood bar. If they kill, they will receive special rewards. Reward: obtain a copy exemption coupon, only used for 5-star copies and below. Note: since the current mission is a special mission, the rewards have been displayed in advance. Note: since this mission is an accident, if you kill the red monster, the reward for completing the copy will be doubled. Suddenly, lines of scarlet words appeared on the game boards of all players. See this scene. All players were stunned. Red named monster? Is this a horror game? Also, this is a dungeon. How did the two Dragon Kingdom Ghost Masters manage to sneak in? This was beyond their expectations. And the reward turned out to be a copy immunity coupon, which is a rare item. It is equivalent to having an extra life in the copy. And this immunity coupon can actually be used on 4-star dungeons. To know: almost all copy exemption coupons circulating on the market are only for Samsung copies and below. Starting from the Samsung copy, there is no such thing as immunity. However, now, Horror Games has actually produced a 4-star dungeon immunity coupon. Whether it is for personal use or trade, this is a rare game prop. Enough to attract all kinds of covetousness. Think of this. Many players have greedy thoughts in their hearts. Killing two Dragon Kingdom Ghost Masters who deserve to die, you can get a immunity ticket to exempt yourself from the 4-star dungeon permission once. Is there anything in this world that is more itching and intolerable than this? Not to mention, the two Dragon Kingdom players on the opposite side also showed their health bars. Once the health bar lights up, the gods are unpredictable. There is some truth to this. Then, in just a split second, all the eyes of the audience were focused on Shen Jian. The other's health bar is empty and will die if touched, which is a serious disability. Only the handsome-looking man with the blood-stained hemp rope tied around his wrist was still full of blood. In other words, their enemy is actually one. The opponent is level 58, a group of top ghost masters among horror game players. Their strength may be comparable to that of a Ghost King, which is really difficult to overcome. But there were more than 40 of them, and if they swarmed up, it was still possible to kill them. Only, they couldn't help but feel ashamed when they looked at Shen Jian's obviously thick blood strips that made the dividing line look thin and black. Farky. What kind of monster is this Dragon Kingdom Ghost Master? The blood bar is actually so thick. If the blood volume of the scar-faced player next to him is 99, then this person's blood volume is likely to have exceeded 100,000. This is obviously not a blood bar that normal players can have. At this time, a thought came to all the players. World-class boss. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 600. At this time, the whole place fell into dead silence. The eyes of countless white and black players have focused on Shen Jian, and more specifically, on Shen Jian's health bar that is comparable to a world-class boss in the game. That is a monster that requires players from a zone to join forces to deal with it. Their eyes were full of disbelief. A mere Dragon Kingdom Ghost controller, even a level 58 veteran player, is only equivalent to the level of a city manager. He can only control 3 powerful ghost puzzles, and he seems to have the strength to temporarily resist the Ghost King. Why is the health bar so outrageous? Without another player to back it up, they would just think that's what the health bar is. But it was the health bar of a level 3 new player that made Shen Jian's blood volume appear to be very abnormal. It's like it's mutated. Is it possible that the other party really loaded the template of a world-class boss? Not very strong, but with high blood volume? Think of this. All the players looked at each other. The fire in his eyes was still there, but no one dared to stand out. They all stood there with gloomy expressions on their faces. The other side. Shen Jian came to the altar. He glanced past this group of players whose highest level was only level 50 and looked at his target this time. A bit of surprise flashed in his eyes. On a huge altar tens of meters high, a large number of slave ghosts were seen kneeling under the altar, turning themselves into humanoid ladders, forming a spacious staircase leading to the top of the altar. On the altar, a mummy covered in bandages, with only a pair of ghostly eyes exposed, sat on a humanoid throne composed of slave ghosts, like a king overlooking his subjects, testing the players. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. As expected of the original owner of this pyramid, those who didn't know it would have thought that he was the supernatural master of the copy. But his target has been found. Just now he took a cursory glance and found that there were at least 1,000 slave ghosts forming the stairs leading to the altar. In addition to the slave ghosts standing on both sides like guards, the number was roughly around 1,500. These. The whole underworld is gone. Intruder, break into the tomb of the pharaoh, you have a way to die. When Shen Jian looked at the other party, the high priest also noticed Shen Jian. In his eyes, there was a scarlet word on Shen Jian's head, a clearly visible health bar, and the identity of the intruder. This was an unacceptable insult to him. As the original owner of the pyramid, he hated anyone stepping into his tomb. If it were not restricted by the rules of the horror game, and if it was not ordered by Cleopatra, he would have killed all the players in front of him. However, Shen Jian broke into the pyramid without authorization and was labeled as a stowaway. His nature was even worse than that of the players. Then he stood up, his ghostly eyes became gloomy, and his tone became even more penetrating. A top-notch ghost king spirit that is infinitely close to ghosts and gods swept across the entire place without warning. The expressions of all the players in the audience changed drastically. Damn it! If you want to fight, then fight. Don't step on the horse and hurt innocent people. We cannot withstand the supernatural sweep of a top ghost king. Some new players who had just entered the dungeon were already shivering and their legs were shaking. Even veteran players are still sweating. Don't know what to do. They wanted the two to fight, but they also didn't want the high priest to kill them. It was best for them both to be injured, otherwise, their reward would be lost. Only. Even if a level 58 player can temporarily compete with the Ghost King, how can he be the opponent of the top Ghost King? Once the two confront each other, the winner may not be determined instantly. What to do? Do you want to abandon this mission? Some Holy See Ghost controllers were frowning at this time and sending messages on the chat interface, as if they were conveying some information. As for Shen Jian, looking at the majestic high priest, he looked calm and thought for a moment. High priest, I am here to give you a gift. This matter is related to the safety of your subjects. If you don't want to see it, you can destroy it, said. Shen Jian took out a supernatural camera. A smooth wall was raised very professionally. The contents of the camera were released. It turned into a huge movie curtain. In this case, even if you stand a little far away, you can clearly see the content in the camera. Soon, videos of the battlefield being cleared were posted. Pretend to be a ghost. The high priest snorted disdainfully and watched with an indifferent expression. Do you think you can scare him with this modern technological equipment? Regardless of how long this dungeon has been open, he already has an understanding of this technological world from the minds of various players. Although he is an antique from before the Middle Ages, if you give him a mobile phone now, he can surf the internet proficiently. It's just a piece of projection technology, not worth mentioning. But soon, as the contents of the video were played continuously, he also saw the scene of a large number of slave ghosts dying and corpses strewn in the field. High priest? His face suddenly stiffened. Everyone was dumbfounded. This background looks so familiar. Isn't this the side of the pyramid he presided over the construction of? So these slave ghosts lying everywhere with corpses are his subjects buried with him. Grass. My people are all gone, you tell me it's a matter of safety? Don't you know when the word safety was used? Isn't this a battle damage report? Can your information be conveyed any later? Wrong. The high priest shook his head violently. The canthus of the eyes is about to split. The question now is, who killed him? His heart was bleeding. Because he knew that Cleopatra would leave sooner or later. Once she left, he would be the worthy owner of the pyramid and the real pharaoh of this tomb. By then, he can lift the ghost realm of the pyramid, lead his subjects and slaves, occupy the real world, and rebuild the civilization of ancient Egypt. But now, there was a damn Hundan who killed his people. What's more, if people sit at home, disaster will come from heaven. Who is it? Who did this? The high priest roared, resounding in all directions. Then, his eyes suddenly fell on Shenjian, and his tone became colder and colder. Is it you? Did you do all this? Being able to shoot such high-definition and uncensored videos under the noses of so many fierce ghosts organizing the battlefield, Shenjian must have something to do with it? Hey, it seems you still have some brains. Shenjian raised his eyebrows. Come down and I'll give you the same treatment. As soon as these words came out. High priest. He was slightly startled. Then his pupils shrank. Is this human being saying that he did this? This is impossible. He knows best the number of slaves building the pyramid. It cannot be done by just a few people. Even a top ghost king like him, who is infinitely close to ghosts and gods, cannot do this. Let alone a human being. But besides the person involved, who else would dare to admit this kind of thing? In other words, it was probably this human being who caused the scene of corpses strewn in the video. Think about it this way. The high priest's heart skipped a beat. He is not afraid of a group committing a crime, but if one person commits a crime, he will have to weigh it. Then, his face was uncertain, and he said in a deep voice, if you have the ability, just come up. Are you so spineless? I have killed so many of you, and instead of defending you, you have become cowardly. This is so embarrassing. Shenjian clicked his tongue and smiled. High priest. Following Shenjian's words, many slave ghosts cast strange looks. As if wondering. But he remained unmoved and retorted, come here and I will give you a good time. No, come out. Come here. You come out. Come here. MMP, you thought I was joking with you. Cursing and cursing. Shenjian stretched out his 5 fingers, and a bright purple plasma hit the altar head-on. Boom. Along with the roar, a large number of slave ghosts fell. The huge altar also exploded. The figure of the high priest also fell down and hit the ground. Do it all. A ghost bus also arrived at the right time. In an instant, more than 30 passengers got off the bus, dragging sacks, walked to the altar without any scruples, and put these slave ghosts into their bags. The overall cooperation highlights a clear division of labor. Just like assembly line engineering, it is so skillful that it makes people feel distressed. This moment, there was no other sound in the field. Whether it was the remaining slave ghosts or the players, they were all too excited to breathe. Everyone stared, looking at this extremely absurd scene. Especially some of the ghost masters of the Holy See. They are all veteran players of horror games and have experienced countless dungeons. Some were bizarre and some were unexpected, but they never thought that one day they would see the ghost who recovered the corpse of the ghost in the dungeon. And a human who can kill the top ghost king with just one hand. Moment. All the players were in an uproar. Jaw-dropping. Is this real? Could it be that this Dragon Kingdom ghost controller is really a world-class boss in a horror game? Otherwise, why is the painting style in the copy different from theirs? They are here to survive. Others are here to purchase goods. Who are you talking to about riding a horse? Are you afraid that if you tell this story, others will just think you are having a hysterical attack and talking nonsense? King Yama, who is this ghost master of the Dragon Kingdom? If there was such a ghost master in the Dragon Kingdom, how could he be unknown? Well, this game ID reminds me of the very uproarious incident of the arrival of angels and ghosts. During that supernatural incident, a so-called king of hell appeared in the Dragon Kingdom and killed the ghosts and gods. As soon as these words came out, all the players in the audience were breathing heavily. King Yama? Hell? God? The player who invaded the dungeon is a god. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 601. A god. These words seem to have a special magic power, making all the players in the audience feel a tremor from their hearts. They stared at Shenjian, as if they wanted to see through the Dragon Kingdom ghost controller in front of them. But facing Shenjian's pair of pupils that were glowing with light, they only dared to take a peek, and then hurriedly shifted their gaze, feeling that they were looking directly into the abyss of hell. He is really the king of hell in the myths and legends of the Dragon Kingdom. This doubt appears in the minds of all white and black players. This is too dreamy. It can even be said to be bizarre. It would be unbelievable for anyone that the legendary god would become a player of a horror game just like them. Surprised. Puzzled. Shocked. Various emotions intertwined and finally became complicated. They couldn't believe that there really were gods in the real world, let alone the resurrection of the underworld in the myths and legends of the Dragon Kingdom. But apart from this possibility, they really couldn't imagine anyone else who could do it and instantly kill a top ghost king when he raised his hand. Not to mention them, not even 5-star players can do it. Even the Holy See is helpless against such a terrifying level of ghost. The only ones who can do this are beings above ghosts and gods. Think of this. There was silence. As Shenjian's gaze swept over them, they subconsciously avoided him, lowering their heads, with horror in their eyes and horror on their faces. Because this god is from the Dragon Kingdom camp. But they are the representatives who persecute the people of the Dragon Kingdom. Although most of them are not interested in this matter, they are the ghost controllers of the Holy See after all. Everything done by the Holy See official in the small town of Gallifrey will naturally be blamed on them. This moment, no one dared to look at Shenjian. Wherever he looked, everyone bowed their heads. See this. Shenjian lost interest in his eyes. Somewhat uninterested, he turned around and left. Behind him, a large number of fierce ghosts followed, but no one spoke. In the team walking together, Naiyun and Chu Qian looked in a daze. When one person stood up, all the people in the world lowered their eyebrows. How powerful and majestic this is. Previously, how deeply these Holy See players have persecuted them, how low they are now. This feeling is really wonderful. He glanced around and saw these once arrogant ghost masters bowing their heads to him. Even though he knew that this was because of Shenjian, there was still a bit of pleasure on his face. At the same time, he touched the scar on his left face, and a bit of anger and gloom flashed in his eyes. Naiyun lowered his voice and said, "Miss Chu, did you just hear what these players said? What exactly do they mean by the coming of angels and ghosts? And this king of hell, isn't this the most famous lord of hell in the underworld? What happened in the Dragon Kingdom during the more than a year since I disappeared? Hear this." Chu Qian also swallowed her saliva and said hesitantly, "I don't know the specifics, but the news that happened in Ivy City was really a big deal at the time. I heard from the forum. Someone once saw an angel with golden wings but an evil face appearing in Ivy City, causing the whole city to fall into turmoil. After that, the legendary lord of the 5th palace of the underworld, King Yama of the underworld, appeared. Without seeing his person, he only heard his voice, showing his divine eyes to the human world. By the way, I still have the copy paintings that I saved on the forum. At that time, I thought the copy paintings on this server were so shocking, so I kept them for you to take a look at," said. Chu Qian took out her phone and handed a photo to Na Yun. In the photo, a huge dark-colored eye appears above the sky. The eye seems to be fixed in the endless sky, and it is extremely majestic. Then the chain was lowered, and a figure covered in golden light, with golden wings and an evil ghost face was firmly locked. A golden spear penetrated the heart of the angel and nailed it to the sky. It's like a trial. Finished reading. Na Yun couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Before he came into contact with the thriller game, he didn't want to believe it. But now, he was shaken. There are horror games and evil ghosts have appeared. So what is unacceptable about the resurrection of the legendary underworld and the appearance of King Yama? Brother Shen, is the legendary king of hell? He's following in the footsteps of a god. Think of this. His face began to turn red. It's so exciting that I can't help myself. You believe it? Chu Qian asked curiously. What is there not to believe in? If he can take us out of the sea of suffering and let us return to our hometown, then he is our God and Savior. Na Yun said firmly. Say it. He also strode away. Only a group of Vatican players were left with their heads lowered and expressions of embarrassment on their faces. Ignore. They were completely ignored. A group of people from the Dragon Kingdom, whom they regarded as amusement, now stepped on their heads and became emboldened. This condescending attitude is no less than a humiliation. This shows that in the eyes of the other party, they are not even qualified to be valued. Just like humans look at ants, who has ever seen a person who cares whether ants have emotions? The more I think about it, the uglier their faces become. This player who is suspected of being a god has definitely not a simple intention in coming to their Western world. This counts as a home invasion. The Holy See will not let these people leave unharmed. By then, they will then know whether they can kill gods. The other side. Shen Jian looked at the crowd of slave ghosts and felt very satisfied. The number of slave ghosts in the first level plus the second level has basically covered most of the power of this copy, and no more can be much more. This group of local ghosts in the real world can also meet the requirements for unlocking the animal realm. The target of 50 evil ghosts with the 10 evil karma has now been completed. The rest can all be used as underworld agents. It can double the number of negative differences, reaching the number of 10,000. These 10,000 yinzei were scattered across major provinces, enough to cover the boundaries of 3 provinces. If we add the built city god temple, the number of city gods can be dozens more. And Shen Jian has not forgotten that he is now the manager of Nanjiang District and can send undercover agents to Nanjiang District in the thriller world to officially start the counter-invasion of the thriller world. At that time, the underworld can be said to have entered a stage of rapid development. The more I think about it, Shen Jian became more and more excited. According to this model of money begetting money, it seems that it is not too far away from letting the underworld truly govern the whole world. Next, it's time to talk to this Cleopatra. Soon, Shen Jian came to a desert palace. On the arena in front of the palace, there are 7 scattered players participating in the 3rd level of the trial. None of these players are below level 40. There are also 2 players above level 50. The highest level 1 is even equal to him, reaching level 58 impressively. See Shen Jian. These 7 white players were all stunned. Then he reacted. This should be the Dragon Kingdom Ghost Controller mentioned by other players in the chat interface. And the opponent did show his health bar in front of them. Looking at the prompts on the scarlet panel, they squinted, as if judging whether they could kill Shen Jian. In the crowd, the eyes of the white player with the highest level, whose ID is Jack, turned completely white. He took half a step back, and disappeared silently and without any movement. The others saw this. I understood the meaning immediately. They all set up cover. The one from the Dragon Kingdom, come to our western border, please abide by the rules of the guests. He will get ahead of us whenever he comes. Haha, are all yellow-skinned people so rude? If you want to enter the Pharaoh's palace, you still need to pass the final test. I believe that at this level, you people from the Dragon Kingdom don't have any information at all. As we are both experienced players, we can share this information for free. At this time, a group of white players stopped Shen Jian. He looked at Shen Jian with an angry look, showing a bit of provocation. The lowest level among them is also at level 45. All of them control the 3 ghost jigsaw. Even if they are inferior to Shen Jian in terms of supernatural strength, they are not much different. At least they will not be killed by the supernatural at once. Coupled with Jack, who is also level 58, no matter how thick the opponent's health bar is, it will not take much time to kill the opponent under the supernatural and unreasonable attack. Now, just wait for Jack to succeed, and they will swarm you and kill you while you are sick. Shen Jian stopped. It was at this moment that the white player with the ID Jack moved to the sky behind Shen Tian without any warning, and swung a colorless bone knife down high. The whole process did not cause any movement. There was no sound, no wind, no shadow, not even breath. Success. See it? The other white players were shocked. The 3 ghosts controlled by Jack are all related to assassination. As long as he is targeted, he will always worry about whether the other party will fall behind him. For outsiders who don't know the specific information, Jack's supernatural assassination is simply impossible to avoid. Because of this complementary supernatural cooperation, Jack once became a nightmare for Western ghost masters. Known as the world's #1 assassin. Even 5-star players would not dare to provoke Jack. Secure this one. Just the next second when this idea came up, they saw Shen Jian grinning, and then a gun was pulled from his body. Turn around and aim behind you. That's right, it's a gun, a modern firearm. Judging from the model, it should be an ordinary Desert Eagle. A group of white players? No. Why don't you get a special pistol for dealing with ghost masters? It might be of some use. You take a regular little pistol? Grass. Who are you looking down on? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 602. The 2 sides are competing in supernatural powers, but one side pulls out a gun. What should we do? Naturally, he laughed loudly. Otherwise, what else could you do? In what age are you still using guns to deal with high-level ghost masters? That's so weird. If you switch to the Vatican's special version of the firearm, it will still be of great use in suppressing the ghosts below the red level, but against the ghosts above the red level, even the special firearms and bullets will have no effect. And among the players present, which one is not level 45 or above? Who is not a ghost master with supernatural powers comparable to those of red-clad ghosts? Firearms have almost no effect on them. Even if he is hit, a body corroded by evil spirits will not be afraid of this threat. Using a gun against them is simply the biggest joke. Think of this. All the white players present couldn't help laughing and sneered. It seems it was because they overestimated Shen Jian. Although this Dragon Kingdom Ghost Master had the advantage of level 58, he had little knowledge. Faced with the unexpected situation, he suddenly panicked and chose the stupidest method. But this is very consistent with their understanding of the people of the Dragon Kingdom. Stupid, conceited, and stuck in its ways. This wave is stable. They got the 4-star dungeon exemption coupon. There is also a player with the ID Jack who has this idea. His eyes are white, and his pupils show a white color that is not found in normal people. It is spread all over the entire eyeball. This is a mark of being deeply eroded by evil spirits, and his organs have become evil. Change. But precisely because of this, he gained the supernatural power that was enough to temporarily compete with the Ghost King. After teleporting to Shenjian, this is the supernatural power of the back ghost he controls. He only needs to lock on one person to appear behind the target out of thin air and ignore the distance. The supernatural power can be seen by the naked eye. Quiet, not even the breeze or sound, this is the supernatural power of the silent ghost. There is another one, a rules ghost that will die if touched. And he holds a colorless bone knife in his hand. This bone knife is made from the bones of a ghost king. It is a top-notch ghost weapon that he spent all his savings to buy from the auction house. It also has the supernatural ability to kill with a hit. The combination of these 4 supernatural powers made him the world's #1 assassin. No player who is close to him can avoid his attack. Without exception. And the next one is Shenjian. Jack's eyes also flashed with sarcasm. Pointing an ordinary pistol at him, a ghost master who is full of supernatural powers, is no different from a 3-year-old kid stabbing him with a toy knife. Although he wondered why Shenjian could react and pull out his pistol, it didn't matter. The important thing is that the first kill record of this boss belongs to him. Think of this. With a bit of a sinister smile on Jack's face, he swung the bone knife high. The half-meter-long bone knife slashed towards Shenjian's neck. "Bye now," he said the last thing. Shenjian looked at it and grinned. "Indeed, it's time to say goodbye." The words fell. Shenjian pulled the trigger, and the bullet was wrapped in yin qi and hit Jack between the eyebrows. Boom. Gunshots fired. People fall to the ground. 7 steps away, the gun is fast, within 7 steps, the gun is fast and accurate. Shenjian clicked his tongue. "Can the gun you use be the same as the one I use?" "Little brother, you are still too young." Seeing the blood flowing down and the dead Jack, Shenjian picked up the bone knife from the ground. Tools for committing crimes add 1. Little did I know. The other white players who saw the scene were all stunned. Staying in place. His face was full of disbelief. A level 58 top ghost master known as the world's #1 assassin died like this? Damn it! It's noisy. Could this be a joke? Today shouldn't be April Fool's Day, brother G, don't make trouble, it's cold underground, get up quickly. They panicked. Looking at Jack's corpse, which had obviously lost its vital signs and even the ghost had gone silent, he began to doubt his life. Ganli Niang. An ordinary small pistol killed one of the top ghost masters of the Holy See? Or is it expected to become a key training target for 5-star players? Grass. How can this be? This way of death is too sloppy. So confused. If they were beaten to death head-on, they would still be able to accept it. But they couldn't accept being shot in the head with a small pistol. It feels so dreamy. They all stared at the gun in Shenjian's hand with great fear. In front of this pistol, they seemed to recall the fear of being dominated by modern firearms before they became ghost masters. Misunderstandings are all misunderstandings. These are all Jack's personal actions and do not rise to the level of collective players. Immediately, a white player took a stand. As soon as the sentence came out, the friendship between the players collapsed like dominoes. One by one, they began to distance themselves from each other. Jack is confused, we are a country of friendship, Jack advocated all this, similar remarks were made constantly. To sum it up in one sentence, Jack deserves to die, he wants to harm us. See this. Shenjian glanced at it. A somewhat mocking look flashed across his face. Then he turned around and walked into the pharaoh's palace. Before leaving, he waved his hand and said, "My people will entertain you." "Say it." Shen Jian entered the palace. The few white ghost masters who stayed outside were frightened and angry, with uncertain expressions on their faces. But he was not sure what Shen Jian's words meant. But soon they'll know. Far away, a ghost bus loaded with corpses of ghosts drove by. More than 30 ghosts and 2 people from the Dragon Kingdom got out of the car. Behind the car, there was a sphinx of ghosts following. A group of white players? That is, the guardian of the first level. Why is this top ghost king following 2 humans? When Shen Jian talks about his people, does he still mean these? This moment, the horror is spreading. At the same time, Shen Jian has also entered the palace. He ignored the 3rd level of the trial that had not yet opened, but chose to rush in directly. Now, he has already taken care of almost all the evil ghosts in the pyramid, including a few from the pharaoh's palace, so he naturally doesn't need to arrest them one by one. Getting this Cleopatra down is the top priority. Thinking, Shen Jian walked all the way deep. A room full of gauze. The sound of running water sounded. Shen Jian looked in the direction. I saw a spreading figure looming behind a veil. The other person seemed to be taking a shower. Behind the gauze is a square pool. In the haze, there was a figure with water on its skin. The water flowed down the smooth body and merged into the water, splashing out and making ripples. As Shen Jian got closer, the other party's outline became more and more perfect. In addition to this picture of a beautiful woman bathing, I am afraid that if the sage comes, I will have to put down the 4 books and 5 classics and experience the ultimate joy. Even if they don't even see the appearance, everyone knows that the figure behind the gauze must be one of the most beautiful masterpieces in the world. Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. There was a hint of desire in my heart. An ordinary person would have already pounced on him and turned into a lustful hungry ghost. However, Shen Jian was unmoved. It was clear that he could pull off the gauze with his hand, see the beauty's peerless appearance, and hold this burning body in his arms, but he did not move. Just stood quietly. Enjoy this delightful scene. Soon, this spreading figure walked out of the pool naked, bent down, took a piece of clothing, and slowly put it on. This action, even if seen through the gauze barrier, still makes people think about it, make their blood flow, and they can't help themselves. Shen Jian watched silently. The next second, a light voice sounded. "Why are you standing still? Don't you want to take a bath with me?" Countless veils were lifted. One after another, women with cool clothes, wheat-colored skin, extremely well-proportioned figures, and golden proportions came out. They have uniform gold and silver jewelry on their bodies, and they wear exotic crowns on their heads. It looks like an exotic woman. Cleopatra, the code name of the Western Holy See, is indeed correct. This exotic woman indeed looks just like Cleopatra. For those who didn't know, they thought she was the queen of the Orthodox ancient Egypt. Only, there seemed to be a lot of Cleopatras here. Behind each veil, a Cleopatra emerged, like a clone, exactly the same. Moreover, what caught Shen Jian's attention even more was that these Cleopatras were all real bodies. That's right. Indeed, they are all real bodies. The aura on each one is at the level of ghosts and gods. And here, there are 7 in total. Shen Jian's eyes flashed with slight surprise. Think about it. Start to imprint the supernatural power of this Cleopatra. At the same time, his eyes were also looking for the source of the supernatural. Are you looking for me? Guess which one is the real me? The 7 Cleopatras laughed at the same time. A smile. The alluring aura became even stronger. It can make men fascinated and crazy. Violently. Shen Jian's eyes suddenly fell on one of them. Cleopatra Philana. Level, Ghost. Introduction. The Supreme Pharaoh of the Pyramid Kingdom can summon the past and future bodies within 3 days, and is blessed by the power of 7 ghosts and gods under her rule. The Pyramid civilization is in order, however, one day, she is forced to coming here. I hate the horror game in my heart. Current status, angry, unhappy, curious. Favorability, 10, first acquaintance. See this. Shen Jian was surprised. This Cleopatra's supernatural power is so foul. Summons the past and future within 3 days. She could summon 3 in the past 3 days, and 3 in the next 3 days. Plus she herself, there were still 7 ghosts and gods this time. A one-on-one fight turned into a group fight. Who can accept this? If the 7 ghosts and gods join forces to surround and kill him, they will probably be as close to destroying world-class ghosts and gods as possible. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. He wanted this supernatural power. The other side. Seeing Shen Jian staring straight at her, Cleopatra's face fell, with a hint of disbelief in her eyes. Her body is all from the past 3 days and the next 3 days. Logically speaking, there is no difference, but this human being found her very accurately. And his expression was extremely determined. This made her a little surprised. How did you find out? I have a pair of eyes that are good at discovering beauty. Shen Jian smiled slightly. Not only to answer the question, but also because he completed the rubbing. He accepted the supernatural power of controlling the past and future bodies at the same time. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 603. Looking at Cleopatra in front of him, the smile in Shen Jian's eyes grew stronger. This wave is a sure prophet. Not only did he gather the conditions to unlock the animal path, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation, he also expanded the number of Yinza to more than 10,000 people. The changes brought about by these 10,000 people are qualitative changes. Not only does it expand the jurisdiction of the underworld to 3 provinces, but it also allows for dozens more city god candidates. In the eyes of the world, that means there are dozens more ghosts and gods. It's terrifying. And he himself used the Chakravartin's divine ability to imprint Cleopatra's supernatural power. Currently, there are 3 kinds of spiritual rubbings imprinted on him. One part is the supernatural belief in angels and ghosts, one part is the supernatural power of the mountain god, and the other part is the supernatural power of Cleopatra to control the past and future body. This supernatural power is very strong no matter who it is placed on. In his eyes, Cleopatra's level of terror is about the same as that of the Queen of Eternal Night, which is worse than ferrying ghosts and gods. However, with the blessing of the supernatural, Cleopatra can make 6 of her future selves appear in this world. Take action at the same time. It is comparable to 7 ghosts and gods working together. This kind of supernatural power is the strongest that Shen Jian has ever seen. Even a supernatural being like the precognitive ghost is not as powerful as Cleopatra. Being able to copy this supernatural rubbing was beyond Shen Jian's expectation. He could already imagine the shocking scene of 6 future selves appearing in this world at the same time. That is absolutely an unimaginable miracle. Thinking. Cleopatra pouted. You guys go back first and I'll talk to him. The words fell. The remaining 6 Cleopatras disappeared into the room. Only the source remains. Human, you broke into my territory and captured my people. What do you want to do? Cleopatra stared at Shen Jian, her big blue eyes blinking slightly. She is very interested in Shen Jian. This human being not only broke into her copy, but also unscrupulously captured the slave ghosts in the pyramid, looking like he was running rampant. And the strength is also much stronger than other humans. Wrong. It shouldn't be compared like this. It was an insult to the human being in front of me. There are also variables that are incomparable between humans. She has been observing Shen Jian and knows that Shen Jian's target is her. You want to resist the horror game? Shen Jian said coldly. So what? Cleopatra frowned slightly, her tone became much colder, and the gauze in the room was moved and rustled. She doesn't mind being spooked and knows this. Because what she did after arriving was to disobey Thriller Games' order to invade this place. What's more, she has already arrived, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Me too, our goals are the same. Shen Jian smiled, pointed to the health bar above his head, and said calmly, I am probably more disgusted with horror games than you are. Even this game mode that makes me an enemy of humans can be loaded in my case, our positions are the same. Hear this. Cleopatra made no retort. Because she also felt a little weird. The horror game actually openly targets a player in the copy. How much does the horror game have to be offended to allow it to retaliate like this? You want to cooperate with me? It can be said that if you know more information about Thriller Game, or know how to seize more permissions, we can work together. Otherwise, you can tell me how to cause horror games to suffer heavy losses, and I can also cooperate with you to kill, set fire, burn, and loot. Or, if you tell me some clues about Luo Fengtian, we can also go and make these places feel the pain. Cleopatra. Pooh. What words is this? It's obviously the Justice League, and the plan to eradicate the villains, but from your mouth, it becomes a full-fledged villain's speech. If you talk like this, you won't survive 3 episodes in the script. She choked. Then his red lips opened. I don't know much about horror games. I only know that this is a permission manager who governs the horror world of that year. Later, due to some accident that year, we ghosts and gods living in the horror world and a large number of supernatural places were all sent into Luo Fengtian by the horror game. We couldn't get out and couldn't get in from the outside. With no other choice, we can only live in Luo Fengtian and transform this place into an environment more suitable for us to live. Hear the words. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Is there no one in Luo Fengtian? Of course not, they are all dead places. Cleopatra explained, currently we know that Luo Fengtian has discovered a total of 5 places, and they have all become our territory. As far as I know, they all have owners. Zhouchuanian Palace is occupied by a supernatural place called Qingguo. Zhongling Tian Palace is occupied by the Ila Empire. Taisha Liangshi Zongtian Palace is occupied by the Entertainment City. The Heavenly Palace of Sinful Qi in Tianzhou where I am located is occupied by the Buddha Kingdom. There is another Ming dynasty that invades the Wuchen Heavenly Palace and becomes a very dark and ownerless place. The person in charge has not yet been determined. As for the last Luo Fengtian, no one has found it yet. Hear this. Shen Jian's eyes darkened. By now, the complete Luo Fengtian has basically appeared. He knew the first 3 places. And the person who controls the 4th place, Luo Fengtian, is actually the Buddha Kingdom? Buddha. Or a ghost using the image of Buddha. There is also the 5th place, Luo Fengtian. He remembered that the glorious ghost and god of Elim Temple once said that she knew a clue to the dragon's energy. That place was an extremely dark place and extremely dangerous. Could it be that he was still referring to the 5th place, Luo Fengtian? Shen Jian was thoughtful. I have an idea in my mind. With your strength, do you have the authority of Luo Fengtian in the 4th place? Shen Jian asked. According to the wishes of the glorious ghosts and gods, Li Gui will not allow complete authority to appear on a single ghost and god, and will inevitably be separated. With Cleopatra's strength, it is normal to have some authority. However, Cleopatra shook her head. No, the Buddha Kingdom rules the Tianzhou Sin Palace and has complete authority over Luo Fengtian. Ghosts and gods like us who have some strength are all driven to desolate places. The Buddha kingdom is the only master. Shen Jian said nothing. It is really troublesome to have a super-large supernatural place with full authority of Luo Fengtian. But correspondingly, it is also a lot more convenient. In the past, Luo Fengtian's authority in the place required him to go to great lengths to find it, but it was different in Buddha country. He only had to reclaim one place, which greatly improved his efficiency. That's a good thing. Think of this. The corners of Shen Jian's mouth raised slightly. Can you help me enter the Buddhist kingdom? Hear this. Cleopatra was slightly startled. If I could go back, I would naturally have a way for you to locate it, but unless the thriller game is willing to let go of its authority, I won't be able to return to the horror world. Haha, I have managerial authority, I can let you go back from Nanjiang district. Shen Jian grinned. The authority of the Nanjiang district manager allows him to freely travel between reality and the horror world, and can also open a passage for anyone to enter Nanjiang district. Cleopatra? She was slightly shocked. No wonder the horror game is so targeted at this human being, so much so that the other party has even taken away part of the administrator's authority. This is the first time it has been obtained by a human being. If that's the case, I can help you. To the horror game, every move you make is like dancing on the grave. It will definitely explode, but due to the rules, it has no way to restrict you. A pleasure to work with. Shen Jian stretched out his hand. Seeing this, Cleopatra also held Shen Jian's hand. Moment. The two reached an agreement. To this. The smile on Shen Jian's face became even stronger. This trip is really worth it? And this. Cleopatra Filana. Current status, excited, happy, and looking forward to it. Favorability, 35, friendly. At the same time. The town of Gallifrey. Pyramid jurisdiction. Because the ghost bus and ghost driver broke into the pyramid, the Holy See sent more reinforcements. Several ghost masters above level 50 were mobilized, and a large number of special bullets and weapons were mobilized to completely surround the jurisdiction. You are saying that that ghost bus is very similar to the one on Gallifrey? Is there any basis for that? Inside the tent, several ghost masters and Gallifrey's senior officials gathered together to discuss something. The speaker was a white man with pin-straight hair. He was wearing a crisp suit and looked meticulous. He is Will. He is not only a ghost controller sent by the Holy See, but also a high-level person who controls the extremely powerful position of the Holy See. This time, he was responsible for the entire ghost bus matter. Its power is so great that it can mobilize all official resources of Gallifrey. Yes, this is what the ghost bus we have photographed looks like. The ghost bus that broke through the blockade last night is basically the same except that there are a lot of ghosts hanging on the roof and the ghost driver has been changed. A subordinate took out the photo and explained. Will was lost in thought. The Ghost King has been replaced by a ferocious Ghost King of unknown origin. This is the only information they currently know. As for why the other party changed the original route of the ghost bus and broke into the scope of the pyramid, no one knew. And they investigated all night and found out where the ghost bus had gone. At this time, there were exclamations from outside. It's back. All the missing players are back. As soon as these words came out, Will ran out quickly. What's going on? The copy is over? How is this possible? A flash of uneasiness flashed through him. This is a 5-star dungeon. Although it is not too dangerous, it cannot be cleared in one night. This is simply impossible. What happened? He asked. Some players who had just released the dungeon said with lingering fear, in the dungeon, a world-class boss came. He destroyed the dungeon, so we came out. Will? He looked confused. Farkey. What nonsense are you talking about? A world-class boss. Destroy the copy? You think this is playing a game? What to say to confuse the speaker? However, next great thing. His pupils widened. Because above the pyramid, a figure slowly emerged. He saw that this figure seemed to be raising his hand. It seems like, moving mountains.